Today, I want to talk about how the SEC is very likely lying about the true number of AMC FTDs, probably covering for the shorts to distract us from just how many AMC shares have been shorted over the last few weeks. So stay tuned and let's make some money. Later in the video, I want to go through the back-to-back 50% and 123% trades we had in the Millionaire Mindset Trading Group. But now I want to dive straight in with the key information. So, Stonks Batman tweeted saying this is why May 13th FTD data was not reported on time. He said on May 13th there was 481 million shares traded, but just 917 FTDs. Not 917 million, not 917,000, just 917. He said this gives me zero confidence in our markets and this needs to be investigated, especially when in weeks prior there was 6 million FTDs on just 35 million shares of volume. What's going on? Now firstly, let's talk about how absolutely ridiculous 917 FTDs actually sounds in this context. So over the last few months, we've had significantly more FTDs on significantly less volume. The first date that jumps out to me is the 21st of August 2023, where we saw 5 million FTDs in one single day. A new record, even more FTDs than we saw back in 2021 when adjusted for the reverse split. That record was quickly beaten only a few weeks later on the 7th of September 2023 with 5.69 million FTDs. And again, the record was beaten again just a few weeks ago on the 3rd of May 2024, where we saw 6.7 million FTDs in one single day. Again, around 67 million when adjusted for the 10-for-1 reverse split. Now, as I said, in 2023, we saw 5 million FTDs on 11 million shares of volume. And a few weeks ago, we saw 6.7 million FTDs on 35 million shares of volume. And the SEC is now trying to convince us there was just 917 singular FTDs on 481 million shares of volume, 10 times more volume than we saw a few weeks ago. And this is all happening especially at a time when the OBV for AMC is absolutely skyrocketing. We saw the OBV initially kick up in January 2021 and again in June of 2021. It then plateaued through the remainder of 2021, most of 2022 and 2023. Since the reverse split, the OBV was falling for the shorts trying to convince us that retail investors were selling shares, which obviously we haven't been. And obviously, since Roaring Kitty came back in May, all of the shorts work has been undone and they've had to short AMC shares many times over, skyrocketing that OBV. And now with hundreds of millions of shares traded and hundreds of millions of shares shorted, somehow there's only just 917 FTDs, not even 1,000. And as you can see from this data, that is the lowest number of FTDs we've seen all month. And I would hazard a guess to say the lowest number of FTDs we've seen in supposedly the last 3 years. As Stonks Batman points out, he said the delayed FTD numbers are out and on 400 million plus volume, there's only 917 FTDs. He said for context, that's over the entire float of AMC traded in one day, and yet not even 1,000 of those shares failed to deliver. How do we trade the entire float of AMC more than once in a day, and yet all of those shares were delivered on time? And he said prior to that, we had the entire float traded of AMC prior to the conversion and reverse split, where there was 50 million FTDs. So we can see a massive disparity in the number of shares of AMC traded and the number of FTDs being spat out. If anything, on this many shares of volume being traded, I would expect tens of millions, if not maybe even hundreds of millions of FTDs in one day. The only thing that can possibly explain the low number of FTDs on this day is that the FTDs were can kicked down the road through the T+35 basis. But it will be very interesting to see when the June data is released just how many FTDs there actually are, or if magically the FTDs disappear. If the FTDs aren't showing on the 13th of May, they must show on T+35, or the SEC is enacting a massive cover-up. As I said at the start of the video, I wanted to go through the 50% gainer on TRNR and also the 123% gainer we had on MBIO. You can see here in the pre-market, before the market open, I said that I'm watching TRNR to break through $5.62. I also said that MBIO might run more and get the breakout, but at this point it's too risky to alert. This is the one thing that sets my Discord apart from other Discords. I give you the price to buy at way before the breakout actually happens. I tell you when I'm buying in advance so you can get in at the same time I buy, if not before I buy. My alerts aren't a few minutes late or 5 or 10 minutes late when the run has already happened. I sent the alert back here in the pre-market, giving people plenty of time to prepare and to set their buy order for $5.63 ready for the breakout and the 50% run up past $8 per share. Same with MBIO. I said in the pre-market that it might run more and get the breakout, which it did, and it continued to run an additional 123%. So guys, be sure to join the Millionaire Mindset Trading Group for these kind of gains every single day using the link in the description below. Especially when, as Practical Stocks has tweeted, the AMC short interest is still going bananas. We can see there's now 54.8 million shares of AMC shorted. Obviously, we can see this has increased massively compared to 2 weeks ago, 52 million now to 55 million. And this has increased even more over the last couple of months. I remember covering this short interest data figure when it was in the 30 millions and also the tens of millions before that. The shorts have been going absolutely insane in 2024, shorting more and more and more shares of AMC. One begs to ask the question, where are the shorts finding all of these shares? And just how many synthetics are being created and left on the books as liabilities? And more importantly, just how bad and how destructive is this going to be when the price of AMC increases and these liabilities on the books and records of banks and hedge funds turn from hundreds of millions to billions and to trillions. Especially as Practical Stocks has also tweeted saying that MOAS is entering the chat via the MACD line. So MACD is a historical indicator showing volume and price, indicated by these two blue and orange lines. When the MACD crosses downwards, the price falls, and when the MACD crosses upwards, the price rises. We can see obviously in 2021 and 2022 the MACD crossed downwards following the price of AMC falling, but right now that MACD is days away from crossing upwards. In fact, actually, looking at these data points, the blue line being at negative 20.95 and the orange line being at negative 21.17, the MACD has already crossed upwards. Now, this suggests, based on historical data, that AMC is due for a massive run. Typically, the MACD runs to 40, 60, 80 or to 100 and then falls back to 0, negative 20, negative 40 and so on before crossing back into that positive territory and then skyrocketing again. Based on this, the price of AMC has plenty of room to run back to all-time highs at $400 per share and significantly further than that, as in 2021 when AMC hit $400 per share of a split adjusted 4, the MACD was only flashing 40 when the MACD maximum indicator goes up to 100. Suggesting a potential possibility based on the MACD indicator of at least $1,000 per share. Now, Unusual Wales has also tweeted saying breaking news. South Korea is extending a ban on short selling through to March 30th of next year and is threatening life in jail for naked short selling. Saying the FSC said it would also revise short selling rules to level the playing field between retail and institutional investors and strengthen fines on illicit trading practices. Now, this is something the US really needs to enact as well to potentially ban short selling, which would be brilliant if they did, and also to bring in a life in jail sentence for naked short selling. So far, the punishment for synthetic short selling in the US is non-existent. Hedge funds, market makers, institutions and banks get away with it all the time, and when they are caught and punished for naked short selling, it's just a measly speed bump fine. Who cares about paying a few $1,000,000 in fines when your company makes billions and tens of billions of dollars per year in profits, not even in revenues, but in profits? That's literally just pennies of dollars in fines for committing illegal crimes. Now, Barchart has also tweeted saying that Nvidia has now officially passed Microsoft and Apple as the world's most valuable company. Yep, since Nvidia's reverse split and the massive gain it's seen over the last few weeks, Nvidia is now the #1 largest company in the entire S&P 500 based on market cap. We can see Barchart has also attached this photo of Nvidia quite literally supporting the entire market. You'll know that if you remove the Magnificent Seven from the S&P 500's gains for the year, the S&P 500 is actually down 1% on the year since 2022 and 2023. It suggests that companies outside the Magnificent Seven have not recovered from the 2022 downturn, and that the American stock market is quite literally being kept alive and kept supported by just 7 companies. And the Great Mantis has tweeted this worrying headline of the last time a company topped Microsoft on the stock exchange. This article from March 2000 talks about when Cisco briefly topped Microsoft as the world's most valuable firm. Now, we all know what happened after March 2000 and what happened to Cisco after this headline, and it's not so great. I absolutely think a massive pullback in the Magnificent Seven, specifically in Nvidia, is coming. I don't know if it's going to happen tomorrow or next week or next month, but a crash is almost certain. Just looking at this max chart, even the 5-year chart for Nvidia is absolutely obscene, and it will be followed by at least a 50%, if not a 75% crash in the stock price of Nvidia. Yes, after a 75% crash, Nvidia will rise back up again, potentially becoming the most valuable company on the market once more. But a massive, at least 50% pullback will come. When a company grows this far, this fast, a massive pullback does happen. It doesn't spell the end of the stock market or the end of capitalism, but there will be a crash. There always is. But as I said, I don't know whether it's going to happen tomorrow, next week, or next month. So I wouldn't be selling Nvidia from your long-term portfolios yet, but prepare for the inevitable. So guys, be sure to let me know what you think down in the comments below. And as always, guys, be sure to ding that notification bell, because that way you'll be alerted when I upload a new video. Cheers.